And I worked with her for years on this. She made really good money really fast. So she was doing really good, but I just could not get her to stop working. Um, Good morning. This is Chris Guyman, the Time Freedom Lawyer, and today we're going to talk about how to unplug for the holidays. So as you're joining us for this live, please let me know where you're joining from. Please let me know, city, state, and then also what's your practice area? What practice area are you working in? And because we're talking about unplugging for the holidays, if you have anything that is stopping you from being able to unplug, please add it to the chat. Just feel free to enter, make any comments that you have. I want to make sure that this is pertinent to you specifically. Okay. We did do a conversation a little while ago on how to, what people were struggling with on the holidays. We did this in our Facebook group and the poll was pretty interesting there. So I'm going to go through those things as well. But if there's anything in addition, at the end of the day, I want you to feel like you are capable of taking time off over the holidays. What does it mean to unplug? And that's really the question that you're going to have to answer for yourself. And why I say this is different people can turn it on and turn it off differently. So for me personally, when I turn my business brain on, it is really hard for me to turn it off. And so I really struggle. I can't wake up early, spend a couple hours working on the firm, and then be able to turn it off and go focus on my family. I'm not able to do that. I have a really good friend here in town. His name's Kelly Smith, and he does that. He travels a ton. He probably travels almost every month, and he's already an early riser. He likes to wake up and go to the gym and stuff. So it's easy for him. He wakes up, he goes, works out, and then he'll work for an hour or two before his family wakes up. And he's able to get everything taken care of, get his team set up to do their work, and then he can mentally turn that off and go enjoy the day with his family. I wish I could do that, but I can't. And so for me, I need to truly turn it off. Sometimes I'll even play a video game or something before I go home. If I've had a really tough, emotionally draining day, I actually have to go do something a mentally intensive task, like a complex video game or math problem type idea, right? Something that's hard, makes me think really hard, to get my brain to turn off before I go home, or I'm just worthless at home. And so the first part is understanding what it means to unplug for you. And the second part of that conversation is, when you're unplugged, what do you do that actually adds energy to your life? I think what too often happens is we're so focused on getting out of work that we forget to get into what makes us happy. And so, and I did this for a lot of years, right? If you look at some of my early content, I used to say, my goal was to work less and earn more, right? That's not my goal anymore. My goal is to do more of the things that I love. So sometimes that is work-related tasks and I do more of those. And other times it's not work-related tasks and I have to take time off of work to do the other things, right? But doing more of the things I love has become my focus now. And so that does require me to have a flexible schedule with my work. And sometimes I do work. So decide for you what unplugging this holiday season is going to look like for you. So for example, for me and my family, the kids get pretty much 2 weeks off. But my wife, she's a dental hygienist. She works 1 day a week and loves it. That's her passion. She's been loving it for years. She makes more money as in our coaching program than she does as a dental hygienist, helping me with the businesses, but she loves it. And so she keeps doing it. She's incredible at it. And the end of the year is a very busy time for dentists because people are trying to get things in before their insurance is reset, right? And so she didn't have to work the 2 Tuesdays that my kids were off, but her boss wanted her to and asked her to, and she likes to be helpful. And so she took those 2 days. Well, then I was like, I can do stuff with the kids those days. What can I do? And at the end of the day, the grandmas wanted to do stuff with the kids. I was like, you know what? The first week we're going to have them hang out with this grandma. The second week we're going to hang them out with the other grandpas as well. Just I was texting the grandmas, not the grandpas. So grandpas will be there probably too. And I thought, man, what an awesome opportunity. My kids are going to get to spend a whole day with just this grandma and grandpa, and then a whole day the next week with the other grandma and grandpa. They're stoked to be able to spend some time with their grandkids. And then I'm going to work those 2 Tuesdays. And that the rest of the week, the rest of the 2 weeks, I'm not going to work, but I am going to work those 2 days. That's what made sense for me this year. And so decide what makes the most sense for you. I am not saying that you just have to turn off your entire firm and do nothing for 2 weeks. That's not what I mean by unplug. But I do mean taking time to do the things that are going to add energy and happiness into your life, and as much of that as you can, especially for people who have kids like me. The time that my kids are off school is so valuable to me. I want to spend as much of that time with my kids as possible. And in this situation, set my kids up to do some really awesome opportunities with their grandparents, and then me take care of the firm. So that's what we're doing this year. You can do whatever makes the most sense for you. In years past, the last 2 Christmases, we went to Disneyland right after Christmas through the rest of the year. So every year is going to look a little different. So that's the first thing, though. I really do want you guys to spend some time of what does unplugging look like to you and what's going to bring you happiness. Then let's make it happen. So some of the biggest objections I got when we were talking about how to unplug came down to your clients. Your clients not understanding, your clients not taking holidays off. You're worried about coming back to 1,000 emails, anything like that. So anyone who's here, do you have those concerns that if you were to unplug for 1 to 2 weeks, that you would be inundated with upset clients, emails, etc.? I'd love to hear if you think that that's going to be an issue for you. So let's talk about how to manage client expectations here. What I have found to be the most successful is don't surprise them. So I have done this a lot of different ways. I used to do it at the beginning of November, and I would send them a thing saying, this is when I'm gone for Thanksgiving, and this is when I'm gone for Christmas, and these are your expectations. And people said they liked it, but I think it was too early for the Christmas break. The truth is, everybody's off for Thanksgiving and the day after Thanksgiving for the most part. And it's only a couple of days. And so I haven't gotten a lot of pushback or issues with the Thanksgiving holiday. If you have, then I would definitely send an email before the Thanksgiving holiday and then another one before Christmas. But I've stopped sending the Thanksgiving one. It wasn't super helpful for me and my clients. And so I now just send an email December 1st. So Thanksgiving's over. People are now switching their gears to Christmas. And I send an email the first day of December or Monday, if it's not a work day. I send the email out and it just says, hey, this is what you can expect for the holiday season. This is when we're in the office. This is when we're not in the office. These are the things that we're doing in order to ensure that your cases are taken care of. And so in that email, I like to say, we are currently in the process of auditing every single case to make sure that we don't miss any court deadlines. And if there's a court deadline during the holiday, we will be coordinating with you directly to talk about what needs to be done before that, and we'll ensure that we make that. So we're not going to miss a deadline, obviously, and if somebody on my team has to work during the break to make sure a deadline's met, we will obviously be doing that. But generally speaking, you know when deadlines are. So it's highly motivating for your team to get the work done the first week or 2 of December so they can take that time off, right? And so that's we do that. So we send an email December 1st and we do an audit of every single case, every single deadline, making sure that we have a plan for the rest of the month on how to get our work done before the break happens. In that email, one of the things you need to consider is how likely is it that your clients are going to have a true emergency during this time. One of the people said, like, my clients get deported over the holidays. You know what? If someone's getting deported and you can stop them from getting deported, take time away from your family and go stop them from getting deported. That is an emergency, 100%. And I 100% support that action, okay? 90%, maybe 95% of your clients' emergencies are not emergencies, right? He didn't pay his child support on time. That's devastating. It's important. But is there anything you can do about it between Christmas and New Year's? No, right? So I'm not saying we don't take care of it. but that's not something that needs to be taken care of between Christmas and New Year's or whatever break you end up taking. And so helping your clients understand what are emergencies and what are not emergencies is one of the most important things you can do. So I have that in my representation agreement, but I remind them of that at the beginning of the month. So let's make sure we know what is an actual emergency. And then the other thing you want to do in that email is let them know how they can contact you in the event of an emergency. And so we have a specific line that we monitor over the holidays that if someone calls that line, my team, if possible, will answer it. And if not possible, they'll check the voicemail at least every single day and get back to people as quickly as possible. So that voicemail transcribes and texts it to Diane, my paralegal. And so she can see those real time if it's a true emergency, right? And what we've done for our team and for our clients is said, if you contact that number, we will get back to you. Same thing, there's an email address they can send stuff to as well. So phone or email, whatever's best for them, they can contact it and we will get back to you. And the fee for doing so is, right? So we just straight up tell them, like, if you contact us on the emergency line and we take care of an emergency for you, it's a minimum fee of $500. We do flat fees, right? So everything's a flat fee basis. So it's a minimum of $500 to take care of it. And the fee will be double what our normally fee would be for those things. And we give them some ideas of what things would cost. I had someone just last year or 2 years ago, it was 2 Christmases ago. He had a hearing that for him was super important. It was not an emergency, but it was important to him and it needed to be done before the end of the year. And so we ended up doing it the Wednesday between Christmas and New Year's 2 years ago, whatever. It was a middle of the week day there because it was important to him. And I let him understand normally that hearing would be about $2,500. In this event, because you're doing it between the holidays, it's going to be $5,000. Is that what you want to do? Are you willing to pay that? And for him, the answer was yes. Money was not the most important thing to him. Time and efficiency was. And so he paid the $5,000 and I took care of the hearing. Well, that was the year we were at Disneyland. And we actually did 2 days in Disneyland. And then we took a day off and then I did 2 more days at Disneyland. And the day off, I just coincided with the trial, not the evidentiary hearing, and I could do it remotely. And so I did 2 days of Disneyland. And then I took a day off of Disneyland. My family went and like swam in the pool and did stuff. And I worked that day. I got ready for the hearing. We did the evidentiary hearing. We got exactly what he wanted. And then I spent the rest of the day, making sure there was no emergencies. People got called back, whatever I could do to just make sure the business was flowing. I have my coaching business that I was doing as well, right? So I took care of that, did a nice full day worth of work. And then I was able to shut that off in my brain and go back to Disneyland for 2 more days. But he paid me $5,000 for that, right? And that entire Disneyland trip was just under $5,000. And so that's why my family said, my wife's like, we'll do that every time, right? We get to be there. We go swim and have fun. You work for a day and you pay for the entire trip. I'll make that trade every single holiday season, right? And that's why I like to have these conversations with you of what is energy adding for you, what isn't, what do you want to spend your time on, what don't you? So you can start not just like black and white, I need to turn it off, I need to turn it on, whatever, but like start understanding what the opportunity cost is. And if you're going to work during this time, how much do you need to be paid? How much do you need to be compensated to make it worth it to you? And then what can you do with the rest of the time to ensure that you're adding enough energy that when you get back to work on 1st of January, you're excited. That's the true question here. It's not, can I turn it off for 2 weeks or not? The answer is yes, you can. But what's more important is, what am I giving up and what am I exchanging? And so I want you to have that conversation, because that was one of my favorite Christmases. We did that. And then I got to go to Disneyland for 2 more days. I didn't have to worry about money the entire time because I'd paid for the whole trip with 1 day's worth of work, and everyone was happy, right? So that's the idea there. So kind of summarize, because we talked about a lot of points, so I want to make sure you get the takeaways on that. December 1st, send an email. In that email, manage expectations. This is when we're working and this is when we're not working. set boundaries. This is what an emergency is. This is what an emergency isn't. And set a dollar amount that makes sense for if you have to work during that time. Because if someone needs it and they're willing to pay that amount and they understand it, then let them pay it, take the money, do the work. Everyone wins, everyone's happy, and you're good. And then decide actually what's going to be the best mental relaxation for you. And so I like about once a week logging in, checking some emails, doing that kind of stuff, getting everything taken care of so that I know everything's taken care of and I can turn my brain off and go back to spending time with my family. That's what I like to do. So we even did a 2-week cruise through Europe a couple years ago. We had like 2 spots in the cruise where when we got off the port that day, I called the office, checked in, made sure everybody's taken care of, answered any questions they needed, ran payroll, and took care of things, right? So that seems to be the right cadence for me. You got to decide what's best for you. Maybe it's work for a couple hours in the morning and then turn it off. Whatever is the right answer for you, that you just have to be honest with yourself. Like, don't open your email every single day. If an email comes in and it wrecks your day and then the entire day is wasted because you're thinking about that email, then that wasn't worth it. And so you've got to have the right thing. If you haven't seen it and you want it, let me know. I'll send it to you. But I'm not going to go through the specifics on how to do that. The other one was, I don't want to miss out on potential clients. And that's a very legitimate concern, right? Part of this, especially if you're trying to hit financial goals, whatever those are. I have found I worry about that less when I'm hitting my financial goals the first 11 months of the year. And so, and I can budget for it, right? That's not something we're going to be able to do between now and this Christmas. And so if you are struggling on getting clients, last week we did a reteach where we're reteaching all of the stuff in Attorney Freedom University, our paid coaching program. And I'm giving that to, like, anybody who joins us live can see all of it for free. Well, in addition to that, once it's uploaded into Attorney Freedom University for that week that it's there, it's completely unlocked. So anybody can go and get a free 1-week trial of Attorney Freedom University and go see that stuff. So this week, the stuff that you would see is I think what I call it, the client engine, marketing and messaging. So I give you a 5-step process on exactly what you can do to generate consistent clients without paying for ads. So that entire module right now is free. You just go to school.com/TFL, Time Freedom Lawyers. So school is spelled with a K, SKOOL.com/TFL. If you go there, it'll take you to the About page and you can sign up for a 1-week trial and go straight to module 2. You can see all of that stuff. So one of my best piece of advice is, let's get you enough clients the first 11 and a half months that you don't worry about the 2 weeks. But I still think it is pertinent and relevant to say, well, what if I do want those leads? And I want those leads too. You're going to have to decide with your industry specific how quickly you need to respond to those messages. What I have found for family law where I am at is almost every family law attorney is taking a decent amount of time off during this time. Even the bigger law firms, they're running on skeleton crews, and the people who are there are busy with the work that they're doing. And so they haven't been able to get consults in very quickly. And so we have someone on our team who calls back all of the people every day. And that has been efficient enough that I haven't seen a drop in our conversion rates. And so that's what we've done. Instead of having someone man the phones, we just have somebody on the team make a call every single day. Usually that means everybody on my team has to make 1 to 2 hours of calls the entire break, and we alternate who does it which days. That's been sufficient for us. If you're in an industry like personal injury or another one where time is of the essence, every minute counts, then the best advice I'm going to give you is, just because you don't want to work over the holidays doesn't mean other people don't want to work over the holidays. Find the people that want to work over the holidays and compensate them accordingly. especially if you're charging your clients extra for the emergencies, you can pay your team extra for handling the emergencies. And I have one attorney, the last 2 years while I was in Disneyland, he loved doing the hearings because we charged extra and clients were okay with it. They chose that when they picked the hearing day. They knew about it before. As long as they understand before, they're often okay with it. And he got extra money to go in. He's like, man, like my kids are just playing video games. Like I can go miss 2 hours of them playing video games to make enough money to afford Christmas. Like sometimes those hearings that he did was generating enough money that he paid for all his Christmas presents. That's great, right? So he was stoked to do that. This year he's going to be out of the country, and so we had to move hearings and stuff because no one wanted to work that week. And so we had to change things around. But there's a lot of people, like for Christmas specifically, there's a lot of religions like Judaism that doesn't celebrate Christmas. And so those people they're going to be happy. Any of the people in those religions are going to be happy to work during those times because they're not celebrating it anyways. There's also a lot of people who, don't have families or their kids are young and they don't have the kids out of school, right? Their kids are out of school every day. Often those people, they love working over the holidays because they can get paid time and a half or something, right? So just remember that just because you don't want to work those holidays doesn't mean that everybody doesn't want to work the holidays. For a lot of years before my kids were in school, I intentionally worked every single holiday. My clients loved me, right? They could come in on their days off. We could meet, we could do stuff. And then I would take my vacation the week after when everybody else was back in work. It was really devastating when my kids' school lives became important enough that I couldn't just leave when everybody else was in school and I had to move that around. Find those people who are interested. There are probably a couple of people on your staff right now that could use the extra money. And if you were willing to pay them time and a half, they would love to do some work during the holidays. So find those people, compensate them accordingly. And the real thing that's going to happen here when you do that is you're going to have to ask yourself, is it worth it? If I'm paying someone time and a half, what am I getting out of that? And it's going to really make you refine and decide what actually is valuable and not valuable for your firm. I love doing this because I'll have a lot of people be like, well, I can't pay someone time and a half to do X. I'm like, okay, well then don't do X. That's not a valuable enough task, right? And it really gets people thinking about what is and isn't valuable. So I love times like this to test you and your team to see what does and doesn't work. I had a really good friend. She's a coaching client of mine. And she said a lot of the same things you did. Like, I can't take time off. If I take time off, X is going to happen or Y is going to happen. And I worked with her for years on this. She made really good money really fast. So she was doing really good, but I just could not get her to stop working. Does anybody feel like that? Like, you're making good money, but like if you didn't do, like if you stopped even for a day, it would be too much. So with her, she was going to Taiwan with her kid for a school thing. And so we worked for a couple of weeks before that to make sure her team was ready and everything. And then she packed her laptop so she could do some work, in the mornings before her kids were up. And that was her compromise. She was going to work for an hour or two each morning and then go spend the rest of the day with her kid. Well, they got to the airport late, rushed through security. You got to take your laptop out of your bag. You know where this is going, right? She took her laptop out of her bag, ran through security, grabbed her bag, ran to the gate. They were super late. So they ran to the gate. They get on the plane just in time. She sits down and about 15 minutes later realizes that her laptop's still at security. Now, who here gets sick about the idea that your laptop is at security and there's nothing you can do about it, right? You're in a plane on the way to Taiwan. She was too, obviously. And she messaged me and we worked through it. But that was probably the best thing that happened to her and her firm, because she contacted her team, let them know she didn't have a laptop. They worked through it and were able to take everything off of her calendar except for one hearing. She had to do one virtual hearing from her phone. And it went fine. Obviously, it's not ideal to do a hearing from your phone, but it was fine. And it got to stress test her team and her systems for 2 weeks. Yeah, Pamela's freaking out. So I'm glad you're admitting that. Not everybody's going to admit it, but yeah, it was scary. And she got back, and there was like 2 little fires that we had to put out. But overall, most of her systems and her team members actually excelled. And she was able to learn who stepped up and who didn't, which systems works and which ones didn't. And we were able to refine a lot of things in her business based off of that 2-week stress test. So I don't usually suggest a full 2 weeks as your first stress test, but if you haven't taken any time off, then I would suggest you take off between Christmas and New Year's, 1 week. That's going to be an awesome test for your team, your company, your systems, everything. It's also a lower risk week to take off because most people are taking that time off. Most people are spending that time with your family. It's funny. One of the comments people said was that my clients don't take holidays. That's BS. Your clients are taking holidays. I used to work between Christmas and New Year's when I first started working, and I would send emails to opposing counsel and they wouldn't respond. I'd send emails to my clients and they wouldn't respond. And I'd submit stuff to the court and they wouldn't sign stuff because everybody else was taking time off. So for your first stress test week, I would take between Christmas and New Year's and see what works and what doesn't. And then adjust accordingly, right? Not everything's going to go perfectly, but a lot of things will, and you can tweak the things that don't. And nothing's going to be so irreversible, especially if you have an emergency line, right, that you can take care of. So that's going to be the biggest thing there, is be okay with the stress test, see what works and what doesn't, and fix it accordingly. With potential clients, like we said, hire the people, decide how quickly you need to respond to people so that you have a system in place to respond timely enough. And then find people who are willing to work over the holidays that are excited for the additional pay. My team, I pay them for those entire 2 weeks off. But part of that is, I pay them for December 24th through January 1st is their paid time off. But part of that, they understand that they are going to take a day in the rotation of answering calls. And that's what they say. Okay, so I have to call people back for 1 to 2 hours, and I work 1 to 2 hours for the entire week and I get paid for it. Seems like a pretty fair trade, right? They seem pretty happy with that. So find what makes the most sense for you. Okay. The other one is court deadlines, right? This is obviously the hardest one to deal with. If you have a court deadline during the break, then please don't miss the deadline. Okay. No break is worth it, coming back and having a deadline missed. Most deadlines can be negotiated. So I have frequently been able to reach out to opposing counsel and moved things around and just said, hey, my kids are out of school and I'm going to be going to Disneyland. Would you be okay if I got back to you on January 5th? Give me a week after Disneyland to get caught up. Most of the time that works. The other way to solve that problem is have a team, right? For the last couple of years, I haven't worked over the holidays pretty much at all because Paul was excited to do it and the extra pay, and he did it. So I didn't have to work and he was excited to do it. But at the end of the day, if there's a court deadline, you have to do it. Just do it. Just figure out, how are you going to be prepared so that you don't have to spend 4 hours prepping for it and then 3 hours recovering from it, and you lose, a whole day or 2 days because of the deadline. Like, do as much of the work beforehand. And if you're auditing your cases on December 1st, you should be able to do this accordingly. But I had that happen. We had our trial the week before, or 2 weeks before. It was the beginning of December, and that judge was retiring at the end of the year. And so he's like, I need to take this under advisement. I'm going to advise it for 2 weeks, and we'll come back the following Tuesday or whatever day it was. And I look, I'm like, Your Honor, that's December 24th. He's like, yeah, I know. It'll be fast. I'm like, Judge, I'm going to be up at the cabin. He's like, where's the cabin? It's Blacksmith Fork, which is 45 minutes away. He's like, oh, you can make it back for a hearing. He's like, we got to get this done before I leave. That was his last day. So he actually had to have 2 bailiffs come in on their days off to open the courthouse for us. And we came in and had a hearing. So what did I do? I mean, there wasn't any prep for that hearing because he was just giving his ruling on the trial we had just done. And so I took my suit up to the cabin, which is a wood burning stove heated cabin. So my suit sat there for 2 days in next to a wood burning stove and smelled like campfire. So I put my suit on. I got into the court. The bailiffs teased me and said, "Were you wearing your suit at a campfire?" And I said, "Look, he called me in from the cabin. Like, I'm here, but this is what he's getting." And we did the hearing, and then Wilmore teased me for wearing my campfire suit, and I went right back up to the cabin, changed on my suit, and got back into it. So you don't necessarily have to not work at all. Okay, just set it up in such a way that it doesn't ruin the rest of the vacation. Um, and then as you scale, you can obviously get to where you're working less and less. So those were my biggest takeaways. If I can kind of summarize everything that I'm thinking of, is first and foremost, take care of your email. I think the number one culprit that ruins attorneys' holidays is their email. And what happens is you're in the habit of checking it all the time. And so you log in, but you're sitting on the couch doing nothing, and there's that email from an angry client or a pissed off opposing counsel or somebody, and then your day's ruined. So have a system to take care of your email, set boundaries with your clients and yourself, and then live up to it. What I have to do, because I have no self-control, and I'd like to point this out, okay, I am not special, all right? There are people like Kobe Bryant who can wake up at 4:00 every morning and work out like crazy, and he is like the most dedicated person that we've ever met. That is not me, okay? So I understand my limitations, and then I make rules and stuff to take care of them. So I am not disciplined. And so when the holiday starts, I delete the email app from my phone. I delete Outlook. It actually drives my wife crazy because that's where my calendar is too. And so then I don't know what's going on the whole week because I don't have my calendar on me. But I can't not check it. And so I delete it. So what do I do when I need to check my email? I go to my office. I turn the computer on. I have a desktop in there. I have to let it boot up. I have to it takes me like 3 minutes to which isn't the end of the world, but longer than just a sneak away, right? To get everything up. So I have Outlook up, and then I check my email. And when I'm done, I actually do the send receive. I turn it off. So I download everything. I turn send receive off. I respond to everybody's messages, and then I hit send on all of them, but they don't send because send receives off. So when I'm done responding to every single message, I then turn the send receive back on and send all of the messages at once, make sure that nothing came in right away. And then I turn it off so that it doesn't become a messenger back and forth. But that's what I have to do, because if I have it on my phone, I will check it and it will ruin my day. So first and foremost, take care of your email. If you don't have a copy of our email SOP, it's free. I'll send it to you. Okay. Like, let me get that sent over to you so you can start working on that. Effectively, you have some sort of assistant sort and check things so that you know what actually has to be responded to, and they do most of the work. When possible, you have them pre-draft your responses. If it's simple things that don't actually need your review at all, then they send them. If it's things that do need your review, then they pre-draft the responses and you review them and send them. And that's why you can get through so many emails in such a short amount of time. Is there should never be something that you are the first person looking at. Someone on your team has done the preliminary work and you're just reviewing and sending. You may tweak it, obviously, just like when your paralegal drafts a motion, you probably review and tweak the motion, but it just cuts down on the time. So that's the first thing. Then send a email to your entire client list at the 1st of December, setting the boundaries, when you're going to work and when not, what an emergency is, what it isn't, and what happens if they have an emergency, how much that's going to cost them. I personally firmly believe if you're billing by the hour, you should charge double. And I have a good buddy of mine. He does this year round, that if you contact him after hours on the emergency line, it's time and a half. And if you contact them on holidays, it's 2x time. He has it in his representation agreement. He reminds his clients all the time. And he has plenty of clients that are happy to pay that. And he's like, I can't tell you how many times I'm like at home, we're just sitting on the couch doing nothing. And I get these messages and stuff in on the emergency line, and I take care of them, and it takes me a half an hour and I make $500. And my wife's like, heck yeah, I'll take $500 for half an hour of your time every time, right? There is often an amount of money that makes it worth losing a little bit of time. And what this does is, instead of just ticking your clients off and them saying, now my attorney doesn't care about me, they get to make the decision. Is this worth it? And if they say yes, and you say yes, bargain for exchange. Let's do this thing, right? And if they say it's not worth the double cost, then they'll send it to you the normal avenue or after the holiday, and they've made that choice. And so they're happy with it. I find that clients often, we think that we just have to do everything that they want. What clients actually want is power and choices. And so if you give them the power and give them the information so they understand and they get to make the decision, often they're way happier. And so give them that power. And then after you send the email, sometimes if you need to send another one or a reminder, you can totally do that. In my email, I specifically say that anything that they send us after December 15th will be reviewed in January. So I give them 2 weeks to send stuff to me, but I'm like, if the last week before the break, if they haven't got it to me already, then they're just admitting and being okay with me doing it. And anything that's submitted on December 15th or later that has to be done by the end of the year is assessed a rush fee. So again, with our flat fees, our rush fees are 50% extra, and our emergencies are double is how we do things. And then make sure your clients have that information. And so I think that's it. Oh yeah. And then hire people, right? If things do have to get done, then figure out if there's anybody on your team that would like to make extra money to work through the holidays and emergencies, and have them do it. And if not, hire accordingly. Okay. And we will get you that SOP. It looks like a couple people are looking for that SOP. So that's kind of it. It really does come down to prioritization and balancing what is and isn't worth it to you. But if you are intentional with your holidays, you truly can come back to work on January just excited to be there. And that's my hope for everybody. Like you'll see a lot of the branding and stuff we've changed recently is live the life you love to live, or live the life or love the, what is it? We empower attorneys to build a life they love living is the statement we've been using a lot. And so I want you to kind of be auditing and checking your time the rest of this year. What are you enjoying? What are you not enjoying? And asking yourself why. I had a really close friend of mine. He's one of my employees, actually. He was really struggling with his practice. And it's funny. I mean, he has my systems. He has my templates. You'd think he'd have everything he needs to create a life he loves to live. And he was struggling. And so we did a time and energy audit for him. And what he realized is he was actually spending upwards of 3 hours a day on his phone at work, checking sports apps. And he's paid off a commission, so I don't care if he's not working, right? But what was happening is he wasn't getting his work done during the day, and so he was working at night. But because he was working at night, he wasn't at home with his family. He wasn't doing those tasks that actually re-energized him, and so he was tired. And so when he's tired, it's way easier to go get on your phone, right? And it was just becoming a bitter cycle. And so what we ended up doing with him was the basics, right? I was like, okay, can't come to work at night. I mean, you can, but don't. Go to bed. Wake up early. His wife runs. So wake up early, go work out when your wife's running. He cannot keep up with her. She runs like 10 miles and he doesn't. So, but he would do like, a quick, just 30-minute workout in the morning. Get that blood flowing, get your body moving, take care of yourself, eat a healthy breakfast, plan out your day, come to work, plan out your day when you're at work, and then get the work done. Don't check your phone, right? We actually have it set up on his and I's phone. If you push the power button 3 times, it goes grayscale. So if you push it 3 times, it's back to color. If you push it 3 more times, it's grayscale. So we just leave our phone on grayscale during the day. That kind of eliminates the dopamine hit from your phone, which gave him almost 3 hours a day back. Not surprisingly, he got a bunch of work done. When he was getting his work done during the day and getting paid for the work he was doing, he didn't have to work at night. And then we were very intentional with what he did at night. What are the things that add energy and what don't? He's kind of an introvert. And so doing things with his family is obviously, those are energy adding activities. And he also needed his alone time. And so we found ways of giving him his alone time that he needed to truly re-energize so he was back ready for the day. And within 2 weeks, his productivity had doubled and he was working less hours. But it all started with paying attention. And so if you haven't done a time and energy audit before, in Time Freedom Lawyers, I was not going to share this, so I'm going rogue here for a second, okay? But in our classroom, in module 1, and again, there's a free week trial, so I'm not selling you anything. You can go get this for free. You come in here and you go to lesson 3, analyze your current reality. We'll talk about it a little bit, and there's a link right here at the bottom. This is time and energy audit. You can download that and do a time and energy audit. If you have not done one of those before, you should do it. I'm giving it to you for free, so just go get the free trial and try it, especially during this holiday season. Figure out what those energy adding activities are for you. Pay attention, like when you're with other people, is that an energy adding activity or is that an energy draining activity? And there's no right or wrong answer to it. I'm the same way. I'm kind of an introvert. It's funny because I spend my entire day doing this stuff, right? I'm on videos, I'm talking to people, and people are like, wow, you're so charismatic, you're so extroverted. No, like I'm good at it. And some of the stuff I enjoy helping other people, but like I need my alone time. And that was really hard for my wife to understand for a long time. Like, she took it as wanted to be away from her. And that wasn't the case. I just needed to be alone. And so I took care of that. And sorry, I had an issue with the team, but, we had to figure out ways of spending time with her because she needs people. That's energy adding activity for her. So we scheduled time for that and we scheduled time for my alone time. But that way we were energized. When you do that, you truly can come back to work excited. And I'll tell you, every time I go on vacation, that's the most productive thing I can do for my firm. Because when I get back, I'm excited. I've had a week to really just dream and think of what's possible. And then I can jump in and I'm energized. So if you're not feeling that way, it doesn't have to be that way. Everything in that module 1, the foundations of freedom, we go through and we talk about helping you identify what parts of your life you love and what parts of your career you don't, and how to get rid of the things that you don't enjoy doing. Can we get rid of everything? No, of course not, right? But we can make it so that you are excited to come back to work. I can tell you every Monday, I'm excited to go to work. Every time we go on vacation, I'm excited to go back to work. But it wasn't always that way. So use this holiday season to be that test. Start paying attention. What's adding energy? What's not? What do you enjoy? What do you don't? What's making you money? What's not? How do we make this work for you? And then if you don't know the answer, obviously, if you know what to do, there's do it. But if you don't know the answer, then jump in for one of these 1-week trials and find the stuff there. Every single week, we do a question and answer inside Attorney Freedom University, where you can go through the modules and then you can ask questions and I'll answer them, but the entire Time Freedom Lawyer community is there to answer them as well. So it's a great way of ensuring that you get your stuff taken care of. So make this the best holiday season you've had. And I think that's everybody's questions. Anything that's come in, I think I've addressed, and that was everything on the stuff. So we're going to call it here. But as always, if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. Any of these social media platforms, we monitor the messages. So feel free to reach out. We're happy to help. If you ask for that email SOP, we'll send it to you. But if not, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.